Good morning. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. We're doing it live this morning. Good morning. Welcome to hell. Welcome to hell, also known as life or US despotism. But I don't want to make this video too depressing. Don't want to make it too depressing. But one of the things that made me think about making this video was that I found this old box. It looked kind of like an arm, one of those U.S. Army trunks. In a what do you call it? In one of those, it was like a shopping cart from a grocery store. It was like this big box, like something you'd get, like a big trunk, like a big wooden trunk with nice metal clasps and stuff on it. And it used to, at one time, it had like a leather, handle on the side. And so it was just somebody left it out there in the rain and all this kind of stuff. So I took it home and I tried to dry it off, and I opened it up, and I looked inside, and I found this inside there. It says 13. And I looked on the back to see who made it. So I was like, I wonder who made that. And it's a company that makes things for people that are graduating, right? So it's a company that makes stuff for people that are graduating from high school. And so this person graduated high school in America, and now their stuff is strewn all over the fucking street. And I don't want to be too depressing about it, but it is depressing because America is depressing, dude. It's a depressing place. Not every part of America is, but where you live, when you live in a place that used to be America and it's not anymore, and everything's just totally ruined, it's depressing. So if you live somewhere where it's still beautiful and it still looks like America, good for you. I should come visit you. Because it doesn't look like that in Southern California. Southern California does not look like America. It doesn't feel like America. You know, it used to really feel like America to me was when I used to go back and visit my Aunt Marge in Vermont. And she lived in a little house in the country in Vermont. And that felt like America, man. I mean, I felt like I was back in the 1800s. The other place I used to like to visit was Hawaii. Hawaii felt not like America, but it felt like a beautiful place, and I was so glad that it belonged to America. Being an American, I felt so glad to be in Hawaii as an American. I was so thankful that we had this place that we could go to because it's so beautiful. I haven't been there in years, but it's such a beautiful place. So happy that it belongs to America. I don't know if it still is. It's probably a little too commercial though now. I mean, it started out as like a lovely little, charming little place to go, and then it turned into and it was a military base, and then it turned into just like a money making machine. So I don't know that it's as fun now if it's a money making machine. But what we need is an America, and one of the things I want to point out to you is one of the things that's on my mind is the Hunter Kozak, the Hunter Kozak questions. Notice how this Hunter Kozak guy keeps reappearing. He appeared on the Barry Weiss, who's an Israeli spy. She's a Jewish spy for a foreign country, working for an Israeli spy named Larry Ellison, who serves a foreign country, that Donald Trump sold TikTok to so that they could carry out mass murder and genocide and suppress people speaking out against being exterminated. That was the whole point why Trump sold that to Larry Ellison. And they said it was to protect us from the Chinese. So stupid. So stupid. So, before I continue, I have a link in my description that if you want to get a credit, and look, I can handle credit cards, okay? But not everybody can handle credit cards. But if you can responsibly handle a credit card, in my link, in my description, you can go there and go apply for a credit card, and you can get a credit card. And then I get, if you qualify for a credit card, that company will send me some money. So that's helping me fund my program here, my broadcast. So, but if you are going to use a credit card, let me give you some advice on how to use a credit card, because I almost didn't want to do it. I'm like, dude, if I put a link in there for credit cards, people are going to get credit cards. They're going to ruin their credit. They're not going to know how to handle it. So let me tell you how to handle a credit card, since I'm promoting a credit card link. if you're going to buy stuff on a credit card, here's what you have to do if you want to have good credit. What you do is you get a credit card, and my recommendation is never get a credit card with an annual fee. I don't. I would never accept a credit card that's going to make me pay them to get a credit card. Never do that. Only get a credit card with no annual fee that costs you nothing. And then whatever your credit limit is, if it's 500, if it's 1,000, if it's 2,000, if it's 8,000, whatever your credit limit is, make sure you actually have that much money in your hand or in some kind of safe place before you use your credit, right? Before you spend a penny on that credit card, make sure you already have that money to cover that credit card payment. That's what I do. And I have really, really good credit. And the reason I have good credit is because all the money that I spend on a credit card is money I already have. So I don't buy things with money I don't have on a credit card. But I used to do that in the past. I ruined my credit a long time ago doing that. And so here's my other piece of advice. If you're really bad with credit and you're not going to have a good credit score, then you're not going to have good credit. Okay. And if you're way behind on your payments and you can't pay them because you don't have any money, and now you're struggling and figuring out how to make these payments and all this stuff, don't even worry about it, bro. Just don't make your payments. Just don't pay it. Just don't pay it. And in 7 years, you'll have good credit, or not good credit. No, in 7 years, you won't have good credit. In 7 years, it comes off your report. So like if you suck at using credit cards, then just stop paying all of them. Let it all go to collections. And then, if you want to pay them back one day, do it or don't. It's up to you. It's just credit cards, dude. It's all run by this. It's all fiat currency. So, I mean, it's up to you. But if you're not good at using credit cards, and then you screw up now you can't make your payments, and then you're struggling, just stop paying them and don't pay them. Just never pay them. If you never pay them in 7 years, it'll just be removed from your record. That's the way the laws are now. And then in 7 years, maybe you'll smarten up and you'll do it the way I'm telling you, which is never buy anything on credit unless you actually have the money. If you're going to spend $10,000 on a credit card, then you should have $10,000 in a bank account or $10,000 in cash under your mattress or something, so that when your payment comes in, you can pay it, and you set that money aside and keep it there, and you don't let it go. You don't let your credit get messed up because you spent the money that you already have. So that's how I recommend using a credit card if you're going to. And so if you want to use a credit card, there's a link in the description. You can get a credit card, and then I think I make like $100. Like if you get a credit card, if you apply through my link, and then you're qualified, I think I get $100, which is cool. So anyway, do that if you want. If you can handle it responsibly. If it's going to be too hard for you, don't do it, dude. Just don't. It's not worth it. It's not worth stressing out. So anyway, so this Hunter Kozak guy, remember this guy? This Hunter Kozak guy, he's the guy who was at the Charlie Kirk's event, and he was the guy that went into the arena or wherever they were, that little place they were all sitting, and got on the microphone and asked Charlie Kirk, I believe it was a Second Amendment question about firearms. And see, the first thing I thought when I heard Hunter Kozak make his firearms question, his Second Amendment question, the first thing I thought was, see, when I saw Charlie Kirk get assassinated, it was timed with this question. It was coordinated with Hunter Kozak. Whoever fired the shot coordinated their assassination with Hunter Kozak's question. You have to understand that. Is that Hunter Kozak, who is Jewish and whose father is tied to the Jewish mafia in Hollywood, that question was coordinated with whoever pulled that trigger. Now, does Hunter Kozak know who pulled the trigger? Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But whoever pulled the trigger knew that Hunter Kozak was going to ask that question. That's my analysis. That's what I believe. Why do I believe that? Because the question was about the Second Amendment. And we all know that the Jewish mafia that runs Washington, D.C. and runs America with their shills in the Catholic Church, which include people like Matt Walsh and Steve Bannon and General Flynn. They're shills in the Catholic Church, but then also include people on the left, see, like Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and all the people on MSNBC. See, all their shills that work for them, the Jewish mafia, tied to with them, with the Vatican, with these Roman. See, it's the Jewish mafia has shills. Their shills are Vatican agents and the Pope himself, the Pope and his team in the Republican and Democratic Party. And then there's also that Christian Zionist element. And they're both the Christian Zionists, who are basically an invention of the Jewish mafia, and the Roman Catholic Church, which has been usurped by the Jewish mafia. Both of them serve and work in a syndicate with the Jewish mafia. Although it's I would say they're all, I can't say which one's worse. They're just all bad. Here's where I was going with this. Hunter Kozak, whether he knows who pulled the trigger or not, the person who pulled the trigger knew he was going to ask that question. And they chose that question specifically to murder Charlie Kirk with a Second Amendment question. See, they specifically decided they were going to murder Charlie Kirk as he answered a Second Amendment, as he stood for the Second Amendment. See, as he spoke out in favor of the Second Amendment, including the fact that some people get killed by guns, he's still going to support it. That was the instant that he was hit. And that's the first thing I realized, is that Hunter Kozak guy, his question was coordinated. His question was coordinated. That's what we're talking about right now. Hunter Kozak's question was coordinated with the strike on Charlie Kirk. It was a Second Amendment question. So that's number one. Who shot Charlie Kirk? I don't know. Was it the weirdo with the 30-06? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. In fact, when I was watching, I can't say, I wasn't there. I just heard what I heard. But so anyway, I want people to look into this Hunter Kozak guy. His father, Stephen Kozak, is a Jewish mafia Hollywood guy. Stephen Kozak. Yeah, he's a film producer. He's a Los Angeles film producer. Made a bunch of degenerate garbage for the Goyim. Goyim, look at this, Goyim. Steve Kozak. Kozak. Hey, Goyim, you want to watch something disgusting? That's their culture. That's what they push on America. Anyway, they did a good job ruining the country. So the country is destroyed. And I was watching the, what's his name? There's a leader of a small country in one of these small Slovak countries, which I can't remember which one it was called. I don't think it's not Serbia, but it's near there. I think it's Slovakia. I think it's the Slovakian leader was talking about how they're a small country and there's really nothing they can do about the fact that Maduro was arrested and he's going to speak out against it. But he's going on about what a small defenseless country they are. And I feel the same way as an American. As an American, we have no defenses. We don't have a government. We don't have any defenses. We're just at the whim of this mafia, this tyrannical, satanic, despotic cult that runs Washington, D.C., and nobody can do anything about it. We just have to sit here. And I think the worst part is the people that pretend like they're on our side, but then promote it and go along with it and don't speak out against it. Which reminds me of Alex Jones. And Alex Jones keeps interviewing this guy like Gary Melton guy, who, as soon as I saw him, he's like an obvious repeater of government propaganda. You know, he was part of the team. Like they had a team attacking Candace Owens, and Alex was on the team, and Ben Shapiro's on the team, and Gary Melton's on the team, and I already said Ben Shapiro, and Barry Weiss is on the attack Candace Owens team, and everybody jumps on the attack Candace bandwagon. It was Alex Jones, Gary Melton, Barry Weiss, Ben Shapiro. Those are the four that come to mind because they were in the media, right? Of course, there's a whole network behind them attacking Candace Owens. Those are the four that comes to mind: Barry Weiss, Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Gary Melton. So sick, so sick, so sick. Alex Jones is such a criminal. He belongs in prison. Oh, which reminds me, one of the things we should do is have a fascist military order called the Ra Division, R-A, the Ra Division. Like in Egypt, they had the god Ra, which is the light. Actually, Ra is the manifestation of God, which is the light. Which brings me back to the Bible. God is light. In him is no darkness at all. God is light. In him is no darkness at all. That's the religion of America. It's the religion of worshiping the light. That's the religion of the Freemasons. What's not the religion? It's the philosophy which the Freemasons implemented. It's the philosophy that the original Christians implemented. It's written in the book of John, and it's in the Gospel of John and the book 1 John and 2 John. And that's why the Freemasons, I need to do a separate video on this. I'm not going to make this all about Freemasonry because I'm not a Freemason. I'm just a guy that knows I know the philosophy that everybody else is trying to implement in their religion. So that's the religion, at least in our realm, right? Christendom. The Egyptians tried to implement this, or they did. The word of God is light. That's Amun Ra or Atum Ra. And then the Israelites had it. God, I need to do a whole separate video about that. But so anyway, God is light. In him is no darkness at all. That's John. That's the first book of John, chapter 5. Love that one. So good. That's all you really need to know. I need to do a video called the Christian origin of Freemasonry, and just read that one line. God is light. In him is no darkness at all. It's weird because there's like this contention between Masons and Catholics. And in fact, I was listening to a bishop that the guy that used to deny the Holocaust. Remember that guy? He was really good. He was a bishop, but he was like on the out. He was like I think he was kind of like no longer part of the official Catholic Church, and kind of because he was into the Latin Mass stuff. Can't remember his name. But he was against Masonry though, and Hitler went after the Masons. But what happened with Masonry is it started as a Christian order, and then it got taken over by Judaism because they allowed Jews in. So it got taken over by Judaism, and then it got turned into a Jewish thing with B'nai B'rith, and then it became Zionism. That's actually what happened to it. It started as a Christian order that said, God is light. In him is no darkness at all. It's actually based on the books of John. In fact, one time I asked the Scottish Rite friend of mine, who I haven't talked to in a long time. We weren't really friends, but we were friendly. I asked him, do you guys celebrate any holidays on the winter solstice or the solstices? He says, no, except for St. John's Day. That was my clue. I didn't know it at the time. That was my clue. Because you have the summer solstice and the winter solstice, and that makes a compass and a square. So anyway, yeah. So Hunter Kozak is somebody that you should look at. Hunter Kozak is somebody that you should look at. There should be a real thorough investigation into Hunter Kozak. Oh, which reminds me. So Alex Jones went on the attack with Barry Weiss. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being allied in war with Barry Weiss against the people trying to expose the crimes and the criminal and the network that killed Charlie Kirk? Alex Jones is such a piece of crap, dude. I can't even believe it. Such a disgusting piece of shit that guy is. I was talking about the Raw division. So as Americans, we don't have a government, but we could form what's called the Raw division, which would be a militant order, but we're not going to use violence. It's going to be a militant order that doesn't use violence. Why? Because we can't afford to use violence because we're too weak and defenseless. And we don't even need to use violence. Is it Sun Tzu? I haven't read The Art of War, but I believe that you're supposed to win the war before the battle is fought. So before you fight the battles, you're supposed to win the war. But what the Raw division could do is simply form into, because you have to, if you're going to have what we need to do as Americans is we say we're the Americans, and the reason why we failed, I'm going to tell you, I've made videos about this since around 2020. Why did America fail? Why did the philosophy fail? Why is America run by a dark age cult if it came out of the Enlightenment? Because it was taken over by Judaism. Judaism took over the Masonic order and turned it into a dark age cult. That's all that happened, basically. If that hadn't have happened, then it would still be about the light. And it'd be a high aesthetic group that worships the light. Now, I think the main contention between the Catholics and the Freemasons has less to do with philosophy and more to do with control of populations and government. Because obviously the Catholic Church believes that it's the only, it's the one and only power on the earth governmentally. And with the Protestant movement and the Reformation, and then with the rise of Masonry, this is what was moving people away from the Catholic Church. And it was both Protestant and Catholics who were signing on to this, and they're becoming more independent. Masonry was also practiced in Russia. And then what happened was, because it had been taken over by the Judaism, and because it had been infiltrated by the Jesuits, it became a weapon. So it was no longer used for enlightenment, but it was used as a weapon or a system to overthrow governments and to overthrow the kings. And this is why the Russians the czars kicked it out, and this is why the King of England lost control of North America, and this is why the King of France was overthrown. See, it was turned against them by the Vatican, the Jesuits, and the Jewish mafia. The Jesuits and the Catholic Church were in a syndicate with the Jewish mafia all across the world, with the sugar business and other slave trading enterprises. So they turned it. They turned it from a philosophical order into a system of overthrow, and that's what happened to it. And that's why, my friend Jordan Maxwell, he once had a video presentation that he did with slides, right? He's got this slide, which I have an image of this on my computer. It's the slide of the original B'nai B'rith Lodge. B'nai B'rith is a Jewish Masonic order. It was founded in 1843 in New York by a group of Jewish Masons and Oddfellows, which is another Masonic type of lodge. And they formed the B'nai B'rith Lodge. So it was going to be a lodge for Jews. Now, when they came to Los Angeles and they built their first B'nai B'rith congregational place, right? What they call, I don't know what they call it, but it's a congregation where they had a building. And on the top of the building, they had an upside down pentagram. Now, if you look at that today, you go, oh, that was a symbol of Satan, and that's because they were practicing Satanism. No. That 5-pointed star of Freemasonry was a Christian symbol. In Freemasonry, that was a symbol from the New Testament. So, of course, the Freemasons, of course, the B'nai B'rith Lodge got rid of that and instead put up the hexagram. And the hexagram is also a Masonic symbol. And it goes back to Greek numerology probably more than anything. But I don't know. I don't want to get into that too much. I will say that that it's essentially the compass and square and the hexagram are similar as far as their form, and it symbolizes the summer solstice and the winter solstice, the black and the white. Oh, I'm going way too far. I need to do a separate video about that. What was I talking about? What I was talking about is, so we lost our philosophy as Americans, and instead we adopted this Jewish thing, which is they believe that they are they believe in the rabbis, and the rabbis want power and control, and it's basically just the mafia. That's all it really is. It's the mafia dressed up as religion, and they brought America into a condition of absolute despotism, degradation, tyranny, sickness, perversion, criminality. America is a toilet. America is not America. The U.S. United States of America. Any area that's under the control of Washington D.C., both in the U.S. and in Europe, and in affiliated groups that are run by this Jewish mafia in Europe, they're all toilets. They're all ruined. The civilization is destroyed. It's destroyed. That's why they bring in the Muslims. Now let me point this out, because Alex Jones has this stuff on his show with this Gary Melton guy, this Fed Gary Melton, weird CIA, U.S. Army, whatever guy, where they want to talk about the Somalian Muslims. Look, see how that benefits the Jews, though? See how bringing in the Somalians and getting them to fight with you benefits the Jews? Because then all the silly white people that can't see the whole picture go, oh, it's the Muslims. We got to side with the Jews. No, the Jews brought them in. This is the same thing Tommy Robinson does in London. They bring all the Muslims in, and then they attack you. And then when you fight against them, they're like, yeah, and the Jews are our allies. Well, they're not. Because number one, the Jews are not for Christianity, which is our religion. See, let me put it this way. Freemasonry, the worship of the light, that's Christianity. John, the book 1 John chapter 5. God is light. In him is no darkness at all. See, it's the worship of the light. They call it Lucifer. It's called Lucifer in the Catholic Church, and it's called Lucifer in Freemasonry. And that's a title for the light of God called Jesus Christ. And it's always been that. That's the ancient Israelite, the original Israelites that came out of Egypt. That's their religion. They didn't call it Lucifer because they didn't speak Latin. They called it the light. They called it whatever. They called it the Phos. Greek is Phos. I don't know what it is. In Akkadian, it's Shem, Hashem, the light, Hashem. See, it's the same thing. That's the religion. It's not. So what I'm saying is, but this Jewish mafia group, they bring in the Muslims. They're working with the Indians. They're working with the Ramaswamis and the whoever, right? Whoever all these other Indian people are that are working with the Republican Party, right? They're working with them. Like Les Wexner has an office in what's that? That town? What's that little island off of Sri Lanka, right? You know Les Wexner. Les Wexner. That's Jeffrey Epstein's sponsor. Well, he has a headquarters or on an island in Sri Lanka where he produces all of his stuff that women buy, all the lingerie and the bath products and all that stuff. That's all produced by Indians that are under the control of Les Wexner over in Sri Lanka. And if you're buying products, if you're buying products and if you're a woman buying product for yourself, or if you're a man buying something for your wife or your girlfriend, and you're paying Les Wexner, you're literally paying the Jewish mafia to kill you, to enslave you, to traffic little girls, to traffic children. That's what you're doing. That's what you're buying. It's called L Brands. L Brands, Les Wexner, L Brands. Big friend of Donald Trump. They're good. They're good buddies. They love each other. Because Donald Trump's a criminal. And as far as bringing Somalians and stuff into America, they shouldn't do that. This is what I'm saying. We're the Americans. We don't need to, first of all, we're the Americans. Oh, this is what I was going to say. We have to have a religion. So this is where our founding fathers went wrong. See, our founding fathers had a religion. The Church of England was a church. And the Freemasons who founded America were also members of the Church of England in most cases, or some other British thing. The problem is everyone was trying to purify the Bible without really fully understanding it. The Masons made a lot of progress in that regard. So I think they probably did the best, but then they got subverted. So anyway, what happened was, because the founding fathers didn't establish a church, this allowed the Talmudo Vatican syndicate to come in and set up a government. And the Freemasons, like George Washington, all these other people that thought that they were creating a government for themselves, were wrong. And you know why I know they're wrong? Because it doesn't exist anymore. And since the point where they set up Washington, D.C., the civilization has been wiped out. It just progressively, year after year after year after year, the group that set up D.C. was the Jewish Mafia and their Vatican partners, who set up the District of Columbia, their Vatican partners. The Jews were really embedded in that. The Jewish Mafia was embedded in that to take over the United States. And they did that by saying that there is not going to be a state religion. And by eradicating the state religion, you eradicated the philosophy that created America. The philosophy that created America is that God's word is light, because it's a Masonic tradition. And Masonic tradition is a Christian tradition. And the Christian tradition is an ancient Israelite tradition, but not the people that you think of as Israel. Has nothing to do with that. That's the Jewish Mafia. The ancient Israelite tradition was a tradition that came out of Egypt that said God's word is light. That's why when they wrote the story of Noah's Ark, they wrote it as this righteous man who hears God's word and builds a sunboat that goes through the calendar. That's what, and people still, like, I'll tell people, like, hey, I'll tell people, I'll go, Noah's Ark is the sun. And they'll go, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense, because they haven't read it. It's literally a calendar. And then at the end, there's a rainbow. What causes a rainbow? Right. It goes from the second month to the summer solstice, and then it ends on the autumn, and then it goes into the winter, and the water recedes through winter, and at the end there's a rainbow. What causes that? See, the whole thing is a calendar, and it's about the sun. And the reason it's about the sun and the sky, the sun boat, is because that's a symbol of God's word, which is the light, which is what Noah hears. See, Noah hears the light. He hears the light. He hears the light of God. See, the whole thing is an allegory. That came from Egypt, where they said Amun Ra, or Atum Ra. We have the first man, Atum. The first man, God created the first man, and he called him Atum. And in Egypt, Atum, the self-created God, appears as the sun. See, it's a solar code. It's not the worship of the sun in the sky. It's a solar code that tells you about God's word. But so when the founding fathers failed to establish a religion, they opened up America to the Talmudo Jesuit syndicate, crime syndicate, and then we ended up losing everything. So the original philosophy, which has been going since thousands of years, is our philosophy, is the worship of the light, the worship of the light. Notice how you only have to have one idea, which is the light. It's just one idea. It's the one perfect idea. This is why, like, it's sad watching people try to follow Christianity and they listen to these stupid Zionist pastors, or they go off in all these crazy directions. It's like, bro, the only thing you had to know is that God is light. And if you would have just known that, it's almost like you could just take the entire Bible and just take that one line out of book 1 John chapter 5. that says God is light. In him is no darkness at all. And just get rid of the rest of the book. I mean, I like the rest of the book, but it's too confusing for people. You got people talking about they believe, there's people that I'm a Christian and I believe that the dinosaurs built the pyramids, and I believe that Jonas really lived in a whale, and the story of Adam and Eve is literal history. It's like, dude, shut the hell up. So stupid. You missed the point. You missed the point. The point is that God is light. Now, of course, you missed it because it wasn't written clearly. So it's not really your fault. The only reason I ever was able to read it and see it is because I'm highly literate. But it's actually too confusing. I mean, it's like it shouldn't be that hard to find out what we're supposed to think about or what we're going to build the foundation of our society on. It shouldn't be that complicated. It should be really simple. Is that we worship the light. What is the light? The light is the truth. That's it. Truth is the light is a what do you call it? Not synonym. Oh, it's like a synonym. It's a word that represents something poetically. So the truth. God is the truth. You could have just said God is the truth, but it says God is the light. Now notice how that's different than God is love. God is not love. God is light. That's the difference. See, that's the original thing. You got all these people running around saying God is love, 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 love. Well, it's not exactly love. It's truth. You could say there's no more loving thing to do than be truthful and honest and decent and righteous and do what is right according to the truth, right? The truth. See, how do you know right from wrong? Because of the truth. Let me give you an example. You know how in the Old Testament, there's all these laws, the laws of Moses, right? There's laws. You can't do this, you can't do that. You can't do this, you can't do that. And it's God hates all these things, right? And the penalty is this and the penalty is that. And maybe God hates those things or what? And when I say God, I mean theos, which is what I'm going to describe for you right now. So let me give you an example. What is a sin really? What is a sin, a transgression against really, in fact? Not something somebody wrote in a book, but what is a transgression really? What is it really? Well, let me give you an example. I was walking through the park, walking my dog, and I remembered something that I had done when I was a young man, and it made me feel terrible. And the thing that I did was I was driving around in this little Toyota Corolla car, and I was somebody was behind me, and I can't remember. I was kind of like just driving through the parking lot. I was just driving normally, but the guy behind me was like, I don't know if he was in a hurry or something. I can't remember what happened, but he honked at me aggressively. And I got out of my car and I threatened him in front of his daughter, his young daughter. Okay. And he sat there and didn't do anything. And I felt like a real tough guy, right? I threatened him. I told him I was going to slap him in the face right in front of his daughter. And then I got back in my car and I drove away. And I was thinking about this yesterday, and it made me feel terrible, right? That I did this. Like, what a horrible thing to do. I remember telling myself, like, that was a wrong thing to do. Now, where in the Bible does it say you can't do that? Nowhere. So then how is that a transgression? Who's it a transgression against? It's a transgression against something within me called theos, the logos, the wisdom, the truth. You see, that's the true God that's spoken of in the story of Jesus Christ. See, that's where you find that's where the real transgression is. It's not written in a book. See, now maybe that guy was just sitting there with a gun in his pocket, just waiting for me to come up to the window. Maybe he was fine. Maybe he's like, oh, okay, tough guy, huh? Why don't you just walk over here and try that? Who knows? I don't know. He sat in his car next to his daughter, but I felt terrible about it because what I did was wrong, you see. But there's no book that says that's wrong. So how do I know it's wrong? And so, interestingly enough, I made several videos about the conscience back starting around 2020. Conscience, which means to know with. Con means with, and science, to know. Different than conscious, to be aware with, I guess. There's conscious and there's conscience. Conscience, your conscience is to know with. I made a bunch of videos about this. And somewhere along the line, as I was making videos about this, that one degenerate, sadistic, genocidal maniac, pervert, who's a good friend of the Epstein lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, the man, Dennis Prager, the pervert, scumbag, Dennis Prager, who is the godfather of Dave Rubin, who's a child baby buyer. He buys babies. Pervert, total sick pervert. Anyway, this rabbi was on the air almost every day while I was doing these silly lectures, because I think they like to investigate anti-Semites, which means people hate the sun. Because they don't even understand they don't understand the language they claim to be the authors of. He kept talking about on the radio show how the conscience is nothing and it doesn't matter and that's all garbage. And it's like, dude, the conscience is literally the God of the Bible. If you understand the allegory and the symbolism, that's what we're talking about. It's the conscience. That's where theos is. That's where the logos is. That's what you're looking for. The conscience. That's where the light comes from. The light comes from. So, when you look up in the heavens and you make a story of the sun and the 12 going across the sky, that's your reminder that there's a light within you called the light. That's the true light called Jesus Christ. It's within you. It's not a guy in a story that's killed by rabbis. It's a guy. It's not even a guy. It's the logos. The logos is the light. That's the original religion. That's the original philosophy of the Israelites, the Christians, the Freemasons, the Egyptians that built the pyramids. And so this has to be an orthodox kind of thing. Like, it's not that you have to believe a lot of different stuff. You just have to believe one thing in the light. That's it. That's your one thing, bro. That's the one thing you had to believe or follow. The truth within you symbolizes the light, called the light. It's like the light. So as Americans, that's our religion. If you're not that religion, you're not an American. Sorry, you're just not. The founding fathers screwed up by saying we're opening it up to all these other religions. Well, that was dumb, because this is the other thing I remember. So back in the 90s, it was this whole thing about nobody really knows. I'm sure the Jewish mafia was pushing this. Oh, the Catholic Church did too, with the Nostra Aetate, saying that all these other religions are just like Christianity, the Muslims and the Hindus and the Jews and the this and the that. See, this has been the push the whole time to get rid of all these other religions, right? Of course, it was the so-called Freemasons behind it, but they just all happen to be Jews now because it's the B'nai B'rith. And then we just lost everything. Like everything was destroyed. What I'm saying is, they push this idea that nobody really has the truth and all these different things lead to God. No, our people from Europe have had the truth the whole time. It's going back to the Athenians in ancient Greece, the logos. So let me tell you this. Let me end the video with this so that you understand. The logos is not imaginary. And theos is not imaginary any more than the planet Saturn, Jupiter, Mars. Those aren't imaginary things. The sun is not imaginary. See, the sun is a real object in the sky. Now, I could write a story about the sun. Okay. Okay. Just so you know, it's like 6:30 in the morning right now. Okay. 7:30. The sun just came up. That's a real thing in the sky. Okay. I'm not imagining it. Well, I am. I mean, we all are. That's the mind. That's the mind of Theos, the collective imagination called the universe. And it is real. I'm not saying it's not real. It is real. Thoughts are real. They appear as spaces and objects. So that is real. I'll have to do a separate video on the nature of reality, but it is real. It's 100% real. It's Theos's natural inclination is spaces and objects. Okay. The natural inclination of Theos is as Theos imagines or thinks, the natural inclination of Theos is spaces and objects. So anyway, the sun comes up every day, and you could write a story about it, and you could mythologize it. You can call it Apollo, you can call it Shemesh, you can call it whatever. The fact of the matter is, it's a real thing, and it follows a certain pattern, in the universe, and that's the logos. The logos appears as spaces and objects, and the logos appears as the truth. Both. See, it's physical and metaphysical. What was I talking about? What I was talking about is I don't remember. I don't remember what I was talking about. I was going to tell you. I was going to end the video with something. I was going to end this video with something. I can't remember now. Shoot. I don't know. I guess I'm not ending the video. I was talking about. Okay, so here's what we need to do. First thing we have to do is have a philosophy. We already have it. Oh, I was saying, this is the philosophy that was in Athens. I remember. So I was telling you, the sun is not an imaginary thing. Well, theos is not imaginary. See, when I say the logos, that's called reason. Reason is real. Okay? Reasoning is real. The truth that you know in your soul, that's a perceptible, real thing. So, and this is the gateway to theos. This is how we know theos. Theos is known through the logos. Theos is known through the truth. See, the truth is how you know theos, right? So theos is a real thing. And theos can be perceived by theos. See, the mind can understand itself. Theos can understand itself. See, theos exists. Logos exists. It's not an invention of man. It's just a thing that exists, just like spaces and objects and planets and universes exist. It exists. The universe exists. Theos exists. It just does. So it's not something I'm making up. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I didn't make this up. This isn't me making up philosophy here. If there's one thing you should understand, it's that I'm not making this stuff up. I'm describing to you something that exists so that you can see it. Just like I said, hey, bro, tomorrow, a giant ball of fire is going to appear up out of the east, and it's going to fly over the earth. And you're like, really? Yeah. Like maybe you were just born, right? Maybe you were born and it's like 3:00 in the morning and you were just born. And I'm like, hey, little baby. At around 6 or 7 in the morning, a giant ball of fire is going to appear and it's going to fly over the earth. And you're like, really? I got to see this. And then it happens, and it happens every day. See, I'm just describing to you something that exists. And if you're sitting in the dark and you were just born 3 seconds ago, you haven't seen that yet, maybe, unless you're reincarnated, which is actually what I think is probably going on. But you don't remember any of that. So you're like, really? Really? A ball of fire is going to appear and warm everybody up, and it's going to light up the day, and all the plants are going to come out and get some sun, and the animals are going to run around and sit in the sun for an hour. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. See, I'm describing something real. So when I tell you about theos, I'm not making this up. When I talk about the logos, it's not something I'm making up. It's something that actually exists. So why would we need some other stupid religion if we already have the thing that really exists and will always exist? Why do we see? This is what I'm talking about. In the 90s, when Bill Clinton was the president, nobody really knows what the truth is. You know, it could be this religion, could be that religion. This is the same thing the Catholic Church did with the Nostra Aetate. Nobody really has all the answers. Yeah, we do. We've had the answers the whole time coming out of the Athenians. They figured this out in 500 BC, 500, 400, 300 BC. We had all the answers. Because there's only one answer. It's called the Logos. That is the answer. And the Logos is symbolized as the light. That's the religion. So it's a philosophy. See, it's a philosophy. It's poetic. It's a religious philosophy. It's poetic description of something that really exists. It's a poetic description of something that really exists called the Logos. The light is a poetic description a poetic philosophy, a poetic religious philosophy, which describes something which really exists, called the logos. So the light describes something called the logos, and that's all there is to it. So why would we import Islam in and build mosques in Europe? Why would we listen to Jews? Why would we need Hinduism? Why would we need any of these other religions? We don't. It's so idiotic. We're the Americans. We have to stop being stupid. And we have to stop this idea that we allow other religions. Now, that's kind of a tricky point there because being on the outside, you're like, hey, bro, we need to open up this thing to other religions, right? So what I'm saying is the government. People individually can believe whatever they want. If you want to go believe in a man who married a 6-year-old in Arabia, go do that. Just don't do it around me because that's disgusting. Or if you want to believe in all these Hindu gods because that's your tradition that goes back a long time. So you don't even have to get rid of your tradition. Like I like to post stuff when when my Facebook was working. I would post pictures of like Orion or something. And maybe some people would be, oh, that's a pagan god. Well, it's just the stars in the sky. And Mithras, right? It's just the stars in the sky. I just like to post stuff like that because it's part of my heritage. You know what I mean? It's part of the Greek, European heritage. We don't have to lose any of that. But we have to understand what our philosophy is. Those are just like, those are what's called trappings, decorative, wait, like what is a trapping? Let me look that up for you. Trappings. The outward signs, features, or objects associated with a particular situation, role, or thing. So the trappings of a culture would be the symbols or objects associated with it. So our culture is European. So images of Zeus or images of Orion, Mithras, those are fine, but that's not what we worship. We worship the light. Images of Jesus and Mary, those are good because they symbolize the light. We don't need Islam. We don't need all these other religions. We don't need all these other races. We don't need a government that's based on interreligious, interracial democracy. No, we already have our philosophy and it is perfect. There's nothing better than the worship of the light. There's nothing beyond that. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing more intelligent than that. There's nothing else. There's nothing. So why would you import Muslims in and go, let's build mosques all over America. Let's build mosques all over Europe. You'd have to be a complete idiot to do that when you already have the religion of the light, which is perfect. It's the perfect philosophy. It's just we forgot that how perfect it was because it got too confusing. It got mixed up with all this other stuff. Now you have people like the TPUSA crowd going, Jews are God's chosen people, and we just got to follow the Jews. Stupid. We don't need mosques. We don't need we don't need to be worshiping Jews and following Jews like they're our leaders and we're slaves. This is just some weird fucking cult. We don't need to build. We don't need these other things. We have the light. The light. See, God is light. In Him is no darkness at all. God is in other words, God is the truth. That is the thing to worship. The truth. Reminds me of I don't watch a lot of Candace Owens, but I am impressed by her because she cares about the truth. And when I was talking about Alex Jones hitting Candace and this whole Barry Weiss, Alex Jones, Ben Shapiro thing about going after Candace, she sticks to her guns on the truth, like whatever the truth is. She cares about the truth. This is a truly Christian position to take. It's a Christian position to take, to care about the truth, to love the truth. And I was watching her show actually last night. For the first time, I actually watched, I think, a whole episode of it. And she talked about these people they're literally like robots. And it's like this whole gang that came after her with Alex Jones and Barry Weiss and Ben Shapiro and Gary Melton and all these. It's very much like AI. It's very much like they're not humans. And when you don't worship the truth, you become less human because you're disconnected from your soul, which is rooted in the truth, which is rooted in theos. So when you don't stick to that, That's why I told you my transgression when I was in the park. And I thought of that time where I insulted a man in front of his daughter because I thought I was a tough guy. And he didn't do anything. Maybe he had a gun. Maybe he was like waiting for me to come over and shoot me in the face. I don't know. But I was like, I'm a tough guy, and I insulted him, and I felt bad about it. What was the transgression against? It was a transgression against the truth. See, you shouldn't do those things. I shouldn't act like that, right? It was wrong. Is it written by Moses that I shouldn't act like that, or in a book? No. It's written on my soul. That's the logos, the truth. It's right there. And so that's the thing called the light, the truth. So anyway, I think I've said enough. Have a great morning. Have a great day. Be productive, and I'll talk to you later.